I was out this week when the college football playoff rankings and all of the SEC cult members rallied together to start decrying Indiana University, undefeated Indiana, who plays Ohio State this weekend, and that is my number one game of the weekend. And in the words of Kurt Signetti, do your research. Google us. Google us, CJ. Are you familiar with the Maple Missile?
What?
The Maple Missile.
That sounds like a porn star. Who is that? That sounds like the dude who was with Ron Jeremy, right? To work those scenes. Who is this person?
He's the Maple Missile.
Okay, tell me more about
Curtis
that.
Rourke.
Okay.
Quarterback.
All right.
At Indiana for the Indiana Hoosiers, the football-playing Hoosiers.
Okay.
They should have two different mascots.
What?
Don't you think of basketball with Hoosiers?
No.
What is a Hoosier?
Oh, I don't know. I think Indiana with Hoosiers. I never watched Hoosiers the movie. Hoosiers is the one with the old timey movie.
Of course.
With the
You've
white
never
dudes.
seen Hoosiers?
Yeah, no, with the white dudes in the booty shorts playing basketball. Real
Okay,
fundamental
a Hoosier is
basketball.
just a person from Indiana, but I always thought it was a basketball playing person from Indiana.
Okay, turn up.
And Indiana football hasn't been relevant for the longest of time.
Ever.
For my
Ever.
entire existence.
Ever.
They've never beaten Ohio State in my entire
Ever.
existence.
They hadn't been relevant ever. Okay, go ahead.
I am excited for this game because we have the games to play the games. So yes, while at this point in time, Ohio State is a 10.5-point favorite, which is down. I think the line opened at like 13.5.
It was 13.5 yesterday.
Well, they
we
lost
talked
their
about it on
starting
Odds
center.
Couple. Yeah.
They lost their starting center.
To a what?
Achilles.
Okay. I just know how near
Another one.
that cause
Another
is
one
to
by
your heart.
Stus. I had some sincere exposure therapy last night being at that basketball tournament. It was at Methodist Le-Bon. It was a Methodist Le Bonner basketball tournament, and it was a bunch of weekend warriors. They were hoopers. Those physicians over at Le Bonner, associates over at Methodist, like they can play, but having to sit there and watch, they weren't even in basketball shoes, some of them. And I was like, do you know how you are on the precipice of disaster by playing? They didn't stretch. They played 4 8-minute quarters and then just took half off. It's like, keep stretching. Put that Achilles up against the wall and start stretching that calf, buddy. If the Ohio State starting center can tear his Achilles, you can tear yours. Chris was like, you've got to get over this. You've got to get over this. And I was like, I'm like shivering watching. I just watched their calves at every second of the game. But alas, that is a big loss for Ohio State. And this is a big opportunity, 10-0 Indiana, Ohio State 9-1. All of the rigmarole on if Indiana loses this game, just loses this game, should they be out of the college football playoff. I am of the belief that they have to get vaporized to not make the college football playoff. If this is a close game, if this is a one-possession game, and you have a one-loss Indiana team, how is that much different than Penn State's resume? And why are you arguing for Penn State to be in and Indiana not?
Penn State has played more teams with winning records. That's the difference in the two. Haven't they? I think they have. Also, Penn State will have played 10 FBS schools to Indiana's 9, right?
That's one different.
Schedule somebody other than Western Illinois.
They don't make these schedules the year of the season.
Okay, get rid of that then. Get Western Illinois off of your schedule. That's your fault for going out there scheduling cream puffs in the out of conference. That will be the difference. That their out-of-conference strength of schedule is atrocious. It is abysmal.
But what is the difference between...
West Virginia is the difference. That's the difference.
Alabama played Mercer. Georgia played Chattanooga. Vanderbilt played Georgia State and lost, and then beat Alabama.
Yeah,
and Alabama is still slated to be in the college football playoff.
Because Alabama has wins over Georgia and LSU. What are we talking about here? Who's Indiana's best win? 6-5 Washington? Like that's a difference. That's a big ass difference. I understand that. Listen, Indiana's a fun story. I enjoy Indiana. Lose this game, you're out of the playoffs because you didn't play anybody. They've been dominant also. This isn't like Indiana squeaking by teams. This isn't the BYU or the Miami of college football this year, where they've gotten really, really lucky, those two teams, to be in the positions that they are. And I think that luck has run out for BYU.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Indiana's the only team in the nation, top 15 in total scoring in yards per game,
Yes,
and total defense, and defensive points allowed per game. The only team in the nation. They trailed by 10 to Michigan State in the first quarter.
47 straight.
Scored 47 straight. It wasn't until Michigan that they trailed, right? It was Michigan where they trailed for a significant portion of the game.
And if
that
you
was
want
the
to have
first time.
one indictment on their season, it would be the second half against Michigan, where they couldn't do anything. Now, was that one game?
No, I think the one indictment is you hadn't played anybody. That's the indictment.
You
that
play
is
the
difference.
schedule that you have.
Schedule better, and you control your out of conference. Get Western Illinois, get whichever MAC school, Kent State, I guess, get them the F off your schedule if
We're
you
going to
want to
talk
get
about
there.
Notre Dame, who has a loss to Northern Illinois, who has the worst loss of any of these teams. You're telling me
Cool.
that a Notre Dame team
Yes, I am.
with a loss to Northern
Yep.
Illinois should get in ahead of an Indiana team
Yes.
that has a loss to Ohio State?
Yes. Does Notre?
insane.
It's not insane. Did Notre Dame play Texas A&M? At Texas A&M? Did they beat Texas A&M? At Texas A&M? Are they finna play Army this week as well?
I
And
just
if
hope
they
Indiana
beat
comes out
Army-
and kicks ass and shuts everyone the F up.
They're not.
We'll see.
I hope so also.
I've seen crazier things.
Let me be clear. The craziest thing about this college football season is 10-0 Indiana.
Yes.
Like that's wild. Go back and look at what Indiana has been historically. And by the totality of Indiana's existence, they've been a punching bag for everybody else in the Big Ten, save maybe Purdue and every now and then Northwestern. For them to be this right now speaks to the job Cignetti has done. And no matter what happens going forward the rest of the season, I would expect them to beat Purdue, an 11-win Indiana team. They wouldn't be in the Big Ten championship game. And I don't think a one-loss. Yeah, they wouldn't be in the Big Ten championship game because they'd have the one loss to Ohio State, assuming Ohio State wins out, right? So they wouldn't be in the Big Ten championship game. In my opinion, they wouldn't be in the CFP or shouldn't be in the CFP. But that's your coach of the year right there. Yeah. It's Cignetti, because that is truly phenomenal. Both things can be true. Indiana can be a good program, just not deserving of a spot in the CFP.
Listen, if, like you said, I would have an entire different perspective on this if Indiana had been lucking their way into win after win on, again, a schedule that was determined years in advance. It's not like Kurt Cignetti comes in,
People buy
brings
out
in his
schedules
James
all the
Madison
time.
transfers, and says, I want to create as easy of a schedule as possible. It is a schedule he inherited and a schedule that they have navigated, not just small wins, but they have crushed opponents along the way, outside of a 5-point win over Michigan last week. And if it is within a touchdown to Ohio State, I think it is asinine that we are arguing for 4 SEC teams to be in the college football playoff instead of Indiana at that rate. What are we doing? Might as well make it the SEC playoff.
We can't. It should be.
This whole point
it
was
should
that
be.
they've already tried to make it
should
the
be.
SEC and the Big Ten.
It should
so you're
be.
taking one of the Big Ten teams out of they're supposed to be the 2 super leagues. We all know how this actually goes. If this was an ACC team or a Big 12 team, it would be an even harder case for Indiana to make. But Indiana is in the Big Ten. They are supposed to be perceived in a conference that is of greater magnitude than all of those other conferences outside of the SEC. And if you're starting this argument now, then you literally might as well just start playing an SEC league.
It should be SEC and Big Ten. Everybody else getting where you fit in. 1, 2. Indiana didn't play Oregon. They'll play Ohio State. They didn't play Penn State. They didn't play Illinois. You can say, okay, that's the conference. They can't do anything about the conference schedule. You can do something about your out of conference. And if we're going to reward teams for playing garbage, absolute pitiful ass football teams in the out of conference, why would I, being a Power 5 school, specifically in the SEC and the Big Ten, why in the hell would I schedule anybody worth a damn in my out of conference? Where's the incentivization there?
Because then you won't even be having this conversation. Everyone is going to try. We're going to get to a place where, and we're talking about it with the SEC right now. Should they play 9?
Yes, they
SEC
should.
games? I think both those conferences should just play your whole schedule at that point. Just turn it into the SEC and the Big Ten. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah,
and I hope Army beats Notre Dame. That's my second game, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah, like why? If I'm Arkansas. Why the hell would I schedule Oklahoma State anymore? Why the hell would I schedule a team from a power conference anymore? If you're telling me all I have to do is 1, get lucky with my conference schedule, and 2, it doesn't matter who you play in the out of conference.
That's a lot of luck for getting lucky with a conference schedule.
It
Because
happens
like
all
you're
the
saying
time.
with
It's not-
Indiana right now, they're lucky you're saying they're lucky because of their conference schedule, but really they're unlucky because of their conference schedule, because now they aren't able
lucky.
to back up what they have done on the field, because you're
Against
making
bad
fake
teams.
hypothetical.
Against bad teams, Jessica.
So what?
You gotta be good teams.
Oh my God.
So if all that matters is winning, which I'm fine with, and we're not going to add the extra caveat in this sport with 100 and how many teams? 130 plus teams in it. And of those 130 plus, let's be real, 15 to 20 of them are any damn good. If all that matters is winning, I'll just say, hey, you know what? I'm South Carolina. I won't schedule anybody worth a damn. Clemson, that rivalry game, I think it's in our best interest to get rid of that.
But it's also not just, it's the full composite of this Indiana team. It is statistically what they are offensively, what they are defensively, and the fact that they're 10-0. This isn't some measly peasly team that's trickling towards even like bottom 10 of scoring, bottom 50 defense in the country. They're a good team. And if you can't take the metrics of a good team and say they've won the games they're supposed to play, and if they go into Ohio State, big noon territory, and at least play them close, I don't know what we're doing. Because it shows that they can at least play Ohio State close. And Ohio State lost to Oregon.
And beat Penn State.
And Penn State almost lost to USC, and sure they won, but USC's pitiful.
Those stats.
You can look at every single week. This is why we play the games.
Those stats are very inflated because the best 3 wins they got are what? Washington, Nebraska, and who? Right? Like that's why those stats are the way that they are. They're inflated and they're overvalued because of the easiness of their schedule. They lose this game, they should be completely out of the CFP conversation. But Cignetti should absolutely still be your coach of the year. And what's my man's name? The Maple Rocket?
Curtis Rourke.
Will probably be a top 10 Heisman vote getter, right? Like should be. If I did my top 10.
The Maple Missile.
What I call him?
Rocket getter.
Okay.
Something.
Yeah, whatever. The Maple Rocket getting missile will probably be top 10 Heisman. This not getting to the CFP.
Does it change your mind if Nebraska becomes a bowl eligible team this weekend?
There's a lot of teams on Indiana's schedule that can become bowl eligible.
Washington's already there.
That's one who's there, and that's the only one that's bowl eligible. Nobody in there out of conference can become bowl eligible.
No.
Nebraska can become bowl eligible this weekend. Michigan can become bowl eligible this weekend. I think there's one more team with a win who could become bowl eligible this weekend. But bowl eligibility does not equal good, right? Like that's not my measurement for good. What matters is how many games are you playing versus teams like you? 1. 2, how many teams are you playing versus teams like you with those teams being good teams? That's what matters. So Indiana fails that when compared to everybody else. They fail that measurement every single time. I can't pit one loss in Indiana in over one loss Penn State because Penn State did go out there and schedule FBS West Virginia, and Indiana didn't schedule anybody. I can't pit Indiana with one loss to Ohio State in over any of the 2-loss teams in the SEC because those 2-loss teams, while Ole Miss and Tennessee have terrible losses on their resume. I want to be clear. Losing to Arkansas, losing to Kentucky means that you are not guaranteed a shot in the playoff, means that you did not earn your spot into the playoff. We can talk about it, and when talking about it, I would sit there and say, oh, this is the same Ole Miss team that beat Georgia? This is the same Tennessee team that beat Alabama? Right? Like, okay, those wins are better than anything else Indiana has done. So they lose there as well. I hate it for them. Sucks for them. Schedule better in your out of conference. You come in, buy out some of these FCS games and say, you know what, we're only playing FBS opponents.
I can't yell anymore.
Okay.
The Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt, live every weekday at 8 a.m.